Hi, everybody. My name is Veronica Crosby, and I'm the current chair of the Masters in Refugee Integration. And in this short presentation, I'm going to introduce you to the program, outlining its core features. So I'm going to now share my screen, which has a short presentation. Okay. So before I start talking about the key features, I just want to dwell on the current global displacement of refugees in the world. According to the UNHCR website, by May 2022, more than 100 million people were forcibly displaced worldwide by persecution, conflict, violence, human rights violations, or events seriously disturbing public order. Nowadays, it's common to wake up to witness scenes where the largest mass movement of people in Europe since the Second World War have taken place due to the invasion of Ukraine. In the Irish context, as elsewhere, the government, institutions such as schools and universities, as well as NGOs and civil society organisations, are working hard to find ways to integrate those who've been forcibly displaced. For example, the Irish Red Cross Pledge a Bed campaign, which was first implemented to support those fleeing Syria, was reintroduced as a means to secure safe accommodation for Ukrainians, for the most part women and children. For the summer months, DCU is hosting 350 Ukrainian refugees in its campus accommodation, and NGOs such as the Irish Refugee Council are working around the clock to support the hosting of refugees in local communities. So the MA Refugee Integration, which is a unique programme both in Ireland and elsewhere, gives students the opportunities to engage in a meaningful way with scenarios such as the one I have painted here. In this short presentation, I'll outline the key features of the programme, including module content, assessment, timetabling, etc. So for this coming academic year, MARI is offered as a one-year full-time programme. It takes place in person on the Glasnevin campus of DCU. It's currently not offered on a part-time basis, but in our experience, people have managed to continue in either part-time or full-time employment while undertaking their studies. If working full-time, students have taken leave at critical times to ensure they keep on top of the module assignments and dissertations. So now I'll just going to introduce you to the core modules. So our academic calendar is divided into 2 teaching semesters. The first one starts in September. And for that, students will be expected to study 3 core modules. They each have 10 credits. The first is called the Refugee Journey, and here you get to study what it means to be forced to flee your country of origin, the reasons for having to flee, the often very precarious journey that people undertake when they cross boundaries into new countries, how they're received at the other end. So, for example, people arriving as internationally displaced people seeking international protection, what they can expect to find. You may be familiar with the concept of direct provision. It's been in the media a lot. So we look at issues like that. We look at housing and, how people can find a way of integrating into society, barriers to employment as well as education, etc. We also look at issues, such as trauma that people may have forced them to leave in the first instance, trauma on the journey and trauma after they've arrived in the host community and trying to find their way in a new context, invariably having to learn a new language as they do so. So we look then at integration strategies that the host culture may employ to assist people. What are the best policies and practices to integrate people? So that's one of the modules. Another one is education in forced migration forced migration and host societies, the second one you see listed there. And here we're looking at a more political angle. We look at bordering practices. We look at trafficking of people. We look at how NGOs in the host community, what efforts they make to support people who are forcibly displaced. A third module that is studied in the first semester is education in forced migration context. And you can see in this image here, children in a classroom in a refugee camp, you know, being who are studying a subject, you know, they study of the target language. If, you know, for example, if they arrive into a neighboring country, and often schooling for them is interrupted. So what happens in those contexts? What supports are in place? What kind of work does the UNHCR do on the ground? When people arrive, for example, Ukrainian children arriving in Ireland, how are they accommodated by school systems? We have, for example, a Schools of Sanctuary initiative in place. So how is this enacted on the ground? So in semester 2, another of the core modules for this program is gender, sexuality and migration. And here we look at the gendered profile of individuals forced to flee. So if you are female, you know, how does that impact on your well-being when you are having to leave a country? Or you may have been trafficked out of your country of origin. We also look at people, for example, with LGBTQI profiles and, you know, the conditions that may force them to have to leave, or when they arrive in their host destination, how they navigate their way, and, you know, how their well-being can be maintained. In addition, we have some year-long core modules. One of them is research methods. That takes place over the 2 semesters. And in this, we look, for example, at how you design a research inquiry, such as a dissertation, different ways of studying, for example, qualitative methods, quantitative methods, and the difference between the two, one more numerical based, the other looking at the phenomenological aspects of people's lives, for example, in the case of being forcibly displaced. Okay, so I'm going to turn next to the the optional modules. So in semester 2, you take, in addition to the one core module, which was the gender, sexuality and migration, you take 2 from a choice of these modules here. So for example, we look at working with refugees and international protection applicants. And here there's the opportunity for you to find a placement in an NGO such as the UNHCR, Irish Refugee Council, etc. And having the opportunity to work there, to observe how people work on the ground, and then you're asked to do a portfolio or a reflective portfolio and present to your classmates. And thanks to that, some people have managed to find other work related, or even to stay within their own the NGO or the organization that they've managed to find work. So it is a nice bridge into the world of work beyond study. Another module is translation in crises. And here we're looking at different situations, be it of you know, of a natural disaster type, or as well as warfare, and what happens when, for example, you know, the UNHCR comes to support people, but they don't speak the local language. How we look at the role that language plays in mediating these situations. We have a number of modules that are offered by our colleagues in the School of Law and Government. So, for example, the governance of migration in Europe, the politics of the UN, environmental change and world politics, international development practice, the politics of the Middle East and North Africa, politics and development in sub-Saharan Africa, race, minorities, and indigenous in international law. So you can read up on the abstracts for each of these modules, and as I said, you can choose two from the list. Or you may wish, you may already have proficiency in either French and Spanish, and you wish to maintain or improve on these. So we offer 2-year-long modules, French and Spanish. So you might choose one or the other in addition to one of the above. So as I said, 2 optional modules in total. So if we look next at assessment, assessment by and large is continuous. In other words, you're not expected to sit in an exam hall with others, but you are given by the module coordinator tasks to complete. So these could include, for example, peer presentations, case studies, essays, or reflective reports. In addition, I mentioned already there is a dissertation, and while some students may know in advance what they would like, broadly speaking, what area they'd like to study, that is fine-tuned towards the end of the second semester, where they present a dissertation proposal. And then over the course of the summer months, they have one-to-one guidance with a supervisor. They work on their dissertation and hand in their work at the end of August. So at the moment, our current group of students studying the program, they are working in a diverse range of areas. So if we look at the credits over the course of semester 1 and 2, by taking the core and optional modules, you'll have a combination of 60 credits. Now, some people may wish to exit at that point. You may do so with a graduate diploma in refugee integration, or you may wish to continue with the program so that you can achieve the award of Masters in Arts in Refugee Integration. And for that, you do the dissertation, which is an additional 30 credits. So if we look at some of the logistics of studying on the program, if we look at delivery mode, we have in-class lectures and seminars. We have some blended delivery where, for example, some lecturers may choose to record the core input components, the lecture, and then they meet in class to workshop the ideas in seminar mode. We have a virtual learning environment, which is generically known as Moodle. In DCU, it's branded as Loop. And if you see on the right-hand side of the slide here, you'll see an extract from one of the modules, the refugee journey. And in the bottom image, you can see the individual components of that are in that module. So the first one is introduction to the module, the refugee journey. Then we look at hospitality, we look at integration and acculturation, the capabilities approach, refugee housing journeys, trauma and psychosocial care, direct provision, refugee identities, and then the assessment mode. So the timetable, by and large, for the core modules anyway, they do not commence before 4 p.m. So as I said, if you're working full-time or part-time, you may still be able to accommodate both by making sure you are available to be on campus at 4 p.m. for lectures. The timetabling, we can never be sure until close to the start of semester, but the average is that you would expect to be there maybe three, sometimes 4 evenings per week. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, for example, the refugee research methods then may happen once every 3 weeks. So that could be on another evening. Some of the law and government and the language options may be timetabled during the day. So if you are constrained by a timetable where you're not available before 4 p.m., you need to look at modules that will for sure be offered after 4 p.m. And you can discuss that with the master's chair by, emailing with any direct queries of that nature. So who is this course suited to? So first of all, you need to be ideally a graduate in the following areas. It's useful. So if you have done an undergraduate degree in social sciences, perhaps in cross-cultural studies, social geography, international relations, conflict resolution, law, migration, or the arts. Now, it is not imperative that at all that you have taken any study already in migration or in forced migration or refugee issues. So we do not expect you to have any knowledge or understanding over and above the lay understanding that you might have gleaned from media reports. We also have had instances where students have arrived on the programme where they may not have even studied an undergraduate degree, but this is quite rare, but they may have experience. For example, somebody was overseeing an accommodation centre for refugees in Italy, and they were taken into the programme based on their professional experience. So if we look at the requirements, and these are all available for you on the web, so successful applicants will generally have a degree at the level of an Irish or UK honours degree, so an honours level 2.2 or above or equivalent. And our international office, they will calibrate. So if you've studied in another university outside Ireland or the UK, they will look at your degree and be able to see if it matches if it's an equivalent to this level in an Irish context. So as I mentioned, ideally you'll have an appropriate combination of professional qualifications and experience instead of, so if you don't have an undergraduate degree, so this includes discipline-specific knowledge and know-how, transferable skills, basic research competency, personal effectiveness. So in other words, that you are ready and able to undertake a study at master's level. If you are an international candidate and you are a non-native speaker of English, you must satisfy the university requirements, the competence. So you might have heard of IELTS tests, so you need to have a minimum of 6.5 for that. So currently the fees at EU status level, it's 7,400 and non-EU fee is 15,000. You may be eligible for a grant, or if you are a person who is currently seeking international protection and you've been in the country for 3 years or more, the government does offer grants now to this cohort. But if you are a more recent arrival and you've been in the country for a minimum of a year, but less than 3 years, we do offer postgraduate scholarships under our University of Sanctuary offering. And if you check out the University of Sanctuary website on the DCU website, you'll find further details there. So in addition to the study, there are other aspects. We've got a really lovely campus in Glasnevin, also on St. Pat's and All Hallows. We have world-class library. It's such a beautiful space to go and study, nice and quiet, light, air-filled. But you don't, as you know, in this digital age, you can sit at home and draw on the library facilities, the digital repository. We've got a beautiful sports centre. Here's an image here of the swimming pool. And we have a lovely building called the U, which is where the Students' Union is located. And this building is for students of the university. Here is a recent photo just to show you students from previous master's programs who were not able to graduate during COVID, but the university made a special occasion to allow people to celebrate this very happy moment. So here's a subset of some of our students from the program. So if you would like to, if you have further queries that are not answered on the day, you can contact me at my email address here, or check out also Mari on the DCU website. And then I have a link here to the student application portal. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and so as I said, I'm happy to field any further queries that you might have. So wishing you all the best today and in future plans for study. Thank you.